Hello, beloved. Greetings. One of God's way of helping us is through the gift of grace. One of God's way of bringing us into our desired destinies is through the instrument of grace. And I discovered that grace comes from God through different channels. And one of those channels is by discerning and connecting to grace carriers. I discovered that God usually would intentionally bring grace carriers our way. It's now left for us to discern the grace in them and humbly connect so as to draw from such words. A perfect example is the case of Joseph. Joseph was a carrier of grace, but unfortunately his siblings couldn't see. When they saw their father loving him, when they saw his life moving expressly, when they saw things working out for him better than them, they failed to see grace at work. The animosity in their heart blinded them from seeing grace at work. Rather, they saw a competitor, and because of that, they couldn't get anything. Contrary to this, when Joseph got into the house of Potiphar, Genesis chapter 39, verse 3, Bible said, and his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all that he did to prosper in his hands. Verse 5, and it came to pass from the time that he made him overseer in his house, and over all that he had, that the Lord blessed Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. When Joseph entered the house of Potiphar, he saw that this one is not just another slave, that this one is a carrier of grace. And he quickly, humbly connected and handed over everything into his hands. And immediately, that grace began to speak. When you align with grace, you receive the pace of grace. So, Potiphar aligned with Joseph, and automatically his pace changed, his results changed, his output changed. But this was what the brothers didn't see, and as a result, they couldn't receive. Hear me, brother. Men are in dimensions. I pray that God will help you to begin to discern men for who they are. Men are in dimensions. And whichever dimension you discern and honor in a man begins to speak. Bible said, henceforth, whosoever receives a prophet in the name of a prophet, say will receive the prophet's reward. Men are in dimensions. Learn to discern grace. That grace could come from somebody older than you, younger than you, at the same age mate as you. Doesn't matter whether above, below, or at the same level. Learn to discern and connect with grace. When you align with grace, you receive the pace of grace. And mind you, sometimes kingmakers don't come as kings. The person carrying the grace you desire may not necessarily have much outward results. So when you look at such a man physically, you will be deceived, you'll be confused. Joseph was a prisoner, yet another prisoner discerned the grace he carried, honored that grace, and that grace took him to the palace. Meanwhile, the carrier of the grace was still a prisoner. Paul said, we are poor, yet we make people rich. One major key to survival, one major key to your next level is your ability to discern and connect with grace. And that is my prayer for you, that the Lord will open your eyes to see the graces around you in persons and grant you the humility to connect to those graces so that the results they produce can become your reality. In the name of Jesus Christ. Shalom.